a signal from?
Give me just 1 second and I'll start the stream and then we'll be ready to go.
Great.
Thank you.
Channel 18 is all set. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, we're all set. We are ready to go.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Paula Carey, and I'm the Chief Justice of the Trial Court. We're excited to be in Barnstable today and down Cape Cod. This is a series of our town halls we've been conducting across the Commonwealth. We found when the pandemic hit that we felt as if we needed to get more information out to the public in terms of what the court system does, how we are able to assist you should you need us. And also we thought it was a great opportunity to bring folks other folks, community folks into the mix, because we know we don't do this together. I mean, we don't do this alone. We are united and we are community courts. So we need to bring our community specialists together. So we're doing this really to address concerns that folks may have and to provide information. This event is the 7th that we've done across the Commonwealth. We've done them in Chelsea, Brockton, Worcester, Lawrence, Springfield, and Holyoke. We also have 2 additional sessions scheduled for Taunton and Malden. I'd like to welcome a few people here. We have Judge John Julian from the Barnstable District Court who's here. We have Judge Jim Torney from the Barnstable Juvenile Court who's here, who's the first judge, and Judge Julian's the first judge in the District Court. We also have the Regional Administrative Judge in the Superior Court, who is Mark Gilday. I noticed that First Judge Riley from the Probate and Family Court is here. We have Barnstable Probation, Chief Probation Officer Ann McDonald, who's also going to speak. We have Narda Barrios, who is with our interpreter services, and she's going to provide information to folks who may have limited English proficiency in terms of how they can access our system. We also have some really special guests, specifically State Representative Stephen Xiarhos. We're delighted to have you here, Rep. Xiarhos, to talk a little bit about what you see the needs of your community. We also have Varia Harrick, who is the Deputy Director of the Barnstable County Department of Human Services. So we're interested in hearing you. We also have Liz Belker, who does intake and legislative liaison at the Housing Assistance Corporation, and with our summary process and moratorium on housing, that's particularly important at this point. We have Sergeant Eric Driftmeyer from the Barnstable Police Department, who's with us as well to talk a little bit about the Barnstable Police. Let's see, who else do we have? I think I got everyone to date. So I'm going to kick it over to I think Rep. Xiarhos is the next speaker. So again, we're grateful to have you, Representative. Congratulations on your election, and look forward to hearing your remarks.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. I'm in my 4th week of being your state representative in the 5th Barnstable District, which includes obviously Barnstable, Sandwich, Bourne, and Plymouth. And my background is I was a police officer for 40 years in Yarmouth, going from a summer police officer back in the 70s when I had a full head of hair and a mustache, to the deputy chief of police 40 years later, 3 college degrees, and raised 4 children, and blessed to have done that. During that time, just like all of you, you see a lot and you feel a lot. And when my police officer, Sean Gannon, was murdered almost 3 years ago, and our dog was shot in the face and nearly killed, that motivated me to run for this position. So I completed 40 years. I left a job that I love to run for a position. I've never run for any position in my life. And I worked hard, stayed above the noise, and reached out and gave my heart. And we were able to win. And we are on a mission. And I'm proud to be here with you. Uh, my brief thoughts on what we see as state representatives. It's probably similar all over the state, but on the Cape, there's so many needs. And sometimes the Cape gets forgotten. Or, we think, people think maybe the Cape is all rich people, but we have all kinds of people and they struggle. And we need help. And thank God we have a great court system. A lot of friends I've made over the years as a police officer and now as a state representative. What we see every day as a state representative, but also a first responder at heart, the COVID crisis is the damage it's done to everyone. We've lost lives. We have sick people. Our hospitals right here on Cape Cod are filled with COVID. And my fiance is a nurse. She's on the front lines, and it's hard on her. So I worry about my first responders, their safety, and the toll it takes on them mentally. So we do what we can to help people in this crisis. I also wanted to mention mental health and addiction issues. I think you probably all see those and how it relates to crime, but also, the toll it takes on families. As a police deputy chief, it was rare that we saw someone in trouble that wasn't somehow suffering from substance use disorder, mental health, or both, probably most of the time both. So that continues. And we're doing everything we can to help people. I can see how that puts a strain on our hospitals. A lot of times police do the best they can, and like most others, we bring them to the hospital for help, and the hospitals are overwhelmed. And we're working hard to try to establish mental health facilities, um, not just an emergency room that's dealing with all kinds of medical issues. There needs to be more for mental health issues, and we're working hard on that. And it puts a strain on the court. I know you know that. When people come in and they can't even physically come in sometimes seeking a commitment order, and how sometimes your hands are tied with the legal issues of that. But those families are desperate and they're looking for help, and it's very difficult, especially when you add COVID. And we also see, everybody talks about COVID, but don't forget, we all know about the opioid crisis, the damage that does to families. Right behind me, right behind that window that you mentioned earlier, is my neighbor. And about 3 weeks ago, his 19-year-old daughter, my neighbor, died of an overdose. And that has devastated the family. Her father doesn't come out of the house. And I try to talk to him every day because I lost my own son. My son Nick was killed in Afghanistan, fighting for our freedom. And also fighting the opioid or heroin issue in Afghanistan. That was part of the Marines' mission. So I know what loss is about, and I want to help as many people as I can. But that's what I see. I see the COVID crisis. I see mental health, addiction. I am concerned about our first responders who are on the front lines, whether that's doctors, nurses, police, fire, anyone in that chain that's trying their best. the opioid crisis, the commitment issues for the courts, and their limitations on how they can commit. And I love the drug court. I think that's very special. And lastly, I want to mention food. I like to say food security. There's so many people hurting, and we have an answer on that. And I wanted to share that quickly. It's called Farmers to Families. So if you've heard about it, great. But if you haven't, I'm a volunteer. I've done over 150 events myself in 50 cities and towns in the last 10 months. We're doing one this afternoon. So we can bring food, cases of fresh food on trucks anywhere in the Commonwealth at no cost. And we do it, we'll do it in New Bedford this Saturday. I'm doing it this afternoon at Falmouth Hospital. It's for people in need, but also just anyone. Anyone, it's a thank you. Thank you. Here's a case of 32 pounds of fresh food. And you may not need the food, but that food helps you, and you can save money and buy gas with a utility bill instead. So we have the ability to bring food anywhere in the state, and any of you that are out there, if you need more information, reach out. It's a lot of work. It's thousands of pounds of food. But if you have volunteers, it's a good thing for them to do. And sometimes it's good not to sit back on the sidelines and criticize, be part of the solution. There's a lot of good people out there that want to help. So those are my thoughts for the 5th Barnstable District. I'm here if you have any questions, and I'm eager to listen to the rest of the presentation.
Rep. Xiarhos, thank you so much. That's wonderful. And that farm to table event or initiative sounds really terrific. So thank you for sharing that with us. I'm guessing there may be a lot of people that might wish to help with that initiative, as we know. And I like your food security better than food insecurity. So I actually like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. It takes away the stigma. We want food security. The food is there. We just got to get it to people and make them feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So I think next up, I may not be able to stay the whole time, but next up, I'm going to introduce Deputy Director at the Barnstable County Department of Human Services, Varia Harak. I hope I pronounced your name. If I didn't, I apologize. She works for the Barnstable County Department of Human Services and plans and develops and coordinates regional efforts to health and human services issues. And their current efforts include convening stakeholders to address substance use, homelessness, and chronic disease. So let's turn it over.
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. I'm Vera Harik, Deputy Director, Barnstable County Department of Human Services. And I do all of those wonderful things that Ms. Carey just mentioned, but during COVID, I have been seconded to the work of the county health department to function as in an epidemiological role to help monitor and track the pandemic. And so because of some of the training that I have, public health experience that I have, I was a former county health director myself. I'm able to work with the county's incident command team in the capacity of epidemiology and public health planning and information and outreach. So in that capacity, I'm speaking to you today. I can also hold forth on issues of the work we've done on substance use in the county, but I think more germane to today's interest amongst yourselves and possibly others is the pandemic response in the county. I think I'll start with just some of the basic numbers. I'm going to share my screen with you and then sort of take you through just some top line information that I produce on a daily and weekly basis for a review of and consumption of policymakers, others here on Cape Cod. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. And so right here is what we know as what we call an epidemiological curve. And what this is doing is charting the new cases. I chart our new cases. I chart them on a daily basis, but this chart shows them on an every 3-day basis for the purpose of smoothing out the daily ups and downs, and at the same time giving you a real sense of the trend. So in looking at this chart, in the brown, you see wave 1 of our pandemic, starting out in early March and really simmering down over the summer. And then wave 2 began we dated around mid-October with some cluster events that caused a jump in the number of cases. And those jumps in the number of cases started to spread here on Cape in the fall. And then once the Thanksgiving period hit, we were off to the races in terms of new cases, with people coming together and not practicing physical distancing and masking. We saw a order of magnitude number of additional cases over what we saw in the spring. Now, the difference between what we're seeing now, we're on the backside of that surge now, but between the spring and now are two major issues, major features. First of all, we were all locked down. So there was very little public circulation going on whatsoever, which helped contain the spread of the virus. And also in the spring, we weren't testing nearly as much. We were not able to test in order to find both symptomatic and asymptomatic cases. The testing in the spring was mostly confined to symptomatic cases, people who were falling sick, had symptoms, and were treated and or hospitalized. So those were the cases. We were finding the sickest. We were testing and finding the sickest people to begin with. Since that time and since the fall, testing has expanded a tremendous amount, and so now it's almost on demand here on Cape Cod due to the work of the county health department. Pardon me. So there have been testing sites set up in Cape Cod that are vastly improve the access for people. In addition, specifically people who are asymptomatic, who are not showing symptoms, but are concerned that they might have been exposed to someone who does have COVID or was symptomatic. And so when you test, you find. So we have found a very much larger number of cases indicative of community spread as well. I'll move to, and in my charts here, we estimate we've got we've had nearly 9,000, over 9,800, over 9,000 cases on Cape Cod of COVID. About 9,400 of them are confirmed with the PCR testing, the genetic testing. And then an additional more than 500 probable cases that either were not tested but were exhibiting symptoms consistent with COVID, or received antigen tests, but that showed positivity, but then that person could go on for a PCR test. So all of those are grouped into the probables as well. So that was cases. This is a summary. Yesterday, Barnstable County reported 27 new cases, which is really, really far down from where we were only a couple of weeks ago when we were reporting new cases on a daily basis, well north of 150. So those numbers have come down. Our hospitalizations, there was a surge in hospitalizations, which took place, the peak of the surge was in the 3rd week of January. We had a 3-day average of 61 to 65 people in hospital at that time, with 18, 19 or so people in the intensive care unit. And those numbers have come down steadily since then. As of yesterday evening, there were 34 people in, so fully 1/2 the number of people in hospital versus 2-3 weeks ago. Hospital has coped well during the surge. The hospital is not full of COVID at this time, but it does have a number of cases that they are handling. The ICU count is also much lower at 9 as of last night. fatalities, this is a chart of our fatalities since the beginning of March. And you saw, so regardless of whether you're testing, whether you're locked down or not, fatalities is a number that really tells the story of how acute the surge is in the community. Because for every number of cases, you get number of hospitalizations, and then among hospitalizations, you will have fatalities, and fatalities will take place in the community. And so the chart for fatalities that I'm showing you here is a much more balanced chart, almost like scales. There were fewer fatalities, a weekly or a three-day basis in the spring than there were at the peak of the surge now, and even recently. But there is a little bit more balance when you compare fatalities with new cases, right? Because fatalities typically will wind up in a medical setting. So we can see that when people ask me, is it worse during wave 2 than it was during wave 1? The answer is it depends. I'm not an economist, I'm a public health person. The economist will be like, on the one hand, and on the other hand, public health person will say, well, it depends on the metric that you're looking at. From a fatalities point of view, it is somewhat worse now during wave 2 than it was during wave 1. But from a cases point of view, we will say it's probably about the same. It's just that we weren't picking up all the cases that were out there circulating during wave 1 back in the spring. The county, the DPH, Department of Public Health, puts out fortnightly or biweekly numbers on each of our towns, Barnstable County. I chart those along with the figures for towns on our islands, because not only some of the court districts, I think, encompass the islands, but certainly our legislative do. So I'm charting that information as well. It would be far too burdensome on you for me to go through this chart, but suffice it to say that the information is there. I will pause now. The big story, well, I guess I won't. I don't want to take too much, but the big story right now is vaccination. The state has put out graphical representation of who is eligible to be vaccinated at the time. Right now, everyone in phase 1 who hasn't been vaccinated already is eligible to get a vaccine. This is largely healthcare workers. And last week, phase 2 began, and individuals age 75 and older are eligible to be vaccinated currently as well. The caveat is always vaccine availability permitting. There are mass vaccination sites set up around the state, the closest of which to our area is Gillette Stadium, and vaccination appointments are available there by going to the website Epidemiological.org. So I think I'm pretty sure that's the web address, either MA Immunizations or MA Vaccinations. That's immunization. To schedule vaccination at these various mass vaccination sites. The challenge is also getting vaccination sites up and running closer to home, right? A lot of people can't cross the bridge, particularly people age 75 and older. To go to a mass vaccination site, that's a good 4-hour round trip drive away. We are limited here at the local level by availability of vaccine. We're only getting about 975 doses into Barnstable on a weekly basis. And that, to try and cover the entirety of the Cape in various sites, is a definite challenge. It is also a challenge to manage people's expectations and frustrations at not being able to find vaccination appointments locally. The county is working with town health agents, town health departments on this area. The county is also ready and has tested and is ready with vaccinations, and has already scheduled some vaccination clinics for this week, and has had some in the prior also. So the county's ready. We could use more vaccine. That I'll pause right now. I don't know how you want to handle questions if there are any. and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Trying to stop sharing my screen. There we go.
Okay.
I know that was a lot, and I do applaud the translators for trying to keep up. If you can believe it, that was me speaking slowly, as Judge Julian can attest.
Well, you did a better job speaking slowly than I did, I think. So thank you very much. I
most
think
welcome.
that's tremendously informative for the citizens of Barnstable County to get that update. That's terrific. I think next up, someone who probably needs no introduction is Judge Julian, who is the first judge of the District Court in Barnstable County. So Judge Julian.
Thank you very much, Chief. Again, my name is John Julian. I'm the first justice here in the Barnstable District Court, and I certainly want to echo my friend Vera's last presentation. I'm very lucky to be able to work with her pretty much weekly, if not a little bit more, on our substance abuse task force that I'm the co-chair on. And she breaks things down like nobody else can, because she's the numbers person. I just talk. She tells me the numbers. And that's just what you need to see. And I'm not a numbers person. So again, Vera, thank you very much for doing that. That's my wife, she likes the numbers. So I appreciate it. So we here at the Barnstable District Court, and you'll hear from my colleagues after this, we want to make sure that the people in the public here in Barnstable County know that we are here 5 days a week from 8:30 in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon for whatever needs that you need from the court. During the pandemic, we never closed. The only time that we have really closed or shut down is when someone either in the court or had been exposed to the virus, and we closed for 24 hours in order to clean the building and make sure that there aren't any exposures to our staff and to the public in general. So we want to assure the public that when you come into our buildings and you come into our courthouses, they are safe, and that if there are issues, we will make sure that they get taken care of. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you do come into the courthouses, just be mindful that you need to be a little bit more patient, that the line may be a little bit longer because we have staff at every door that has to ask a series of questions before we let you into the courthouse to make sure that you are not affected by the virus or that you're sick, and that you have the ability to pass that on to somebody else that while you're in the courthouse. So they're going to, the court staff or the court officers are going to ask you a number of questions about your health, where you've been. They're actually going to take your temperature before you come in the building, and that if the questions that you're asked are not answered to the satisfaction of the staff, they may turn you away, but they're not telling you to leave. What we're doing is we're asking people, one, that if they need the protection from the court for whatever reason or need questions asked, we'll ask you to return to your car, and that we'll call you. We'll get you on the phone, and if we have to put you on Zoom or we'll talk to you on the phone, we will do that. So there are signs on the doors at both at the district court, at the probate court, and at the superior court as to numbers that you can call and get information and the things that we're doing here in court. So what are we doing here in the district court? We're doing everything that we do all the time. We are doing arraignments. We're doing warrant removals, we're doing hearings, we're doing civil cases, but some things may seem different. There are things that we are doing in court every day, that people are coming into court, they're having hearings in front of judges, and those particular in-court proceedings are arraignments, people that are arrested and brought to court. If you have a warrant for your arrest, we ask you to come to court to have that warrant removed. Anyone seeking the protection, either by way of a restraining order or a harassment prevention order, we are asking those plaintiffs to come to court, and defendants for subsequent hearings, to have a court hearing in front of a judge live here in the courthouse. Now, for those people who are concerned about safety of, as I said before, the virus or things that people aren't comfortable coming into the building, again, we will handle those proceedings either by phone or at least the initial hearings by phone or by Zoom. And that you can contact the clerk's office and our very able clerk magistrate, Chuck Ardito, in which we'll share that phone number at the end of the presentation. Now, the other things that we're doing in court, as Representative Xiarhos aptly pointed out, and I want to thank him for his appearance here today, and the stuff that he is doing is great. Okay, that's all I can say. We are doing Section 12 petitions, which are mental health hearings, and Section 35 petitions are need of help for the people that are addicted to drugs and alcohol. We are doing those petitions here in the courthouse. We are having hearings. The doctors are having interviews. They're doing them by way of Zoom, but the participants are here in the courthouse and doing those hearings live every day. The one other thing that we're that we're doing live is that we have started to do bench trials. So our trial session is starting to back up a little bit based on the number of cases that we have and the fact that we weren't doing live and in person hearings, but now we have opened that up that some trial matters are going forward by way of bench trials in front of a judge, not a jury. We have not got to the jury part yet. There are pilots that are being done around the state, try to get jurors back in the buildings, and that's a continuing effort that the chief is looking into based on a couple of jury trials that have happened over the past few weeks. Now, a lot of the work that we're doing in this technology age is what we're doing right now. We do a lot of our hearings over Zoom, and Zoom has been a great tool for us to keep the docket moving. And I think probably Zoom is probably here to stay even after the pandemic. But we are doing all of our criminal pre-trials. We're doing all of our civil matters. We're doing all of our small claims hearings, our criminal magistrate hearings, our civil magistrate hearings. And I do every week and every other week my drug court by way of Zoom. It becomes, difficult because you're not having that person in front of you, but it's an opportunity for the court to be able to keep moving forward and not getting bogged down. So those are the things, and those hearings are all public hearings. On the doors of each courthouse, there are signs with Zoom information that the public can participate in those hearings and come and listen as they want. And if you don't see that, you can always contact the clerk's office and they'll be more than happy to give out that information on an everyday basis. So those are the things that we're doing every day here in court, and we're able to resolve cases. People are being placed on probation. We have probationers coming in the building to meet with their probation officers on a limited basis. A lot of that's also being done by way of Zoom. And I want to give an opportunity for our Chief Probation Officer, Ann McDonald, to say a few words as to what probation's doing here in Barnstable, both for all of the probation staff.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Ann McDonald, and I'm the Chief Probation Officer for the Barnstable District Court Probation Office. Despite the pandemic and the reduction of staff that's allowed in the building due to the social distancing guidelines, our office continues to conduct business as efficiently as possible. Our office still supervises over 500 individuals with a variety of offenses and different levels of supervision, including conditions of pretrial of release, which are on pending cases that have not been resolved, and individuals who have been ordered by the judges to be on probation. So our department, and I think other probation departments, including juvenile and probate, continue to monitor these offenders both in the office and remotely with the use of laptops and cell phones, which have been provided by the Commissioner's office. We continue to maintain contact and supervise these conditions of probation, by having contact with our probationers. So in addition to the supervision of these cases, probation officers are still involved in the day-to-day operations of the court as Judge Julian stated, we continue to do things in sessions. Probation officers are in sessions, providing information to the judges, the assistant district attorneys, and defense counsel. We continue to make referrals for services to offenders, and we also continue to hold those offenders accountable by having violation of probation hearings, both by Zoom and in person if necessary. So in addition to the personal contact that we make with the offenders, our probation officers also utilize different forms of technology which assists us in supervision of those offenders. One of the most common pieces of technology are the GPS or global positioning system devices, which are bracelets that are placed on the offender's ankles, and they have them on there 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and those GPS bracelets will monitor conditions such as curfews, or stay away from victims of violence, or maybe a stay away from a location in town, so that we can monitor these offenders 24 hours a day. One of the other pieces of technology are portable breathalyzer units. These are devices that the offenders and the probationers have with them 24 hours a day when they have an abstinence order to remain alcohol-free, and they have to carry them with them every day. They blow into them. They randomly have to actually blow into the device, and it immediately comes up to see if they're using alcohol or not. So both of the GPS and SCRAM devices are actually monitored, as I said, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And if there's any non-compliance of those conditions, a warrant can be issued immediately for their arrest. So as everyone has already stated, we know that many of our probationers struggle with addiction. Our probation officers continue to monitor these individuals with significant substance abuse issues through our drug court, as Judge Julian has reported. And we still have ongoing random urine testing. We utilize the AverHealth lab located in Xiarhos, and the offenders are called in randomly. They have to call in to see if they have to report that day. If they have to report, they go in and they submit to a urine test, and those urine tests are made available to the probation department. Depending on the situation, whatever substance it comes up, if it comes up positive, probation officers make the determination as to whether they're going to bring the offender in to be seen by the judge, or we can assist them into getting into further treatment. So probationers have been able to access and continue to access court-ordered therapeutic services, such as domestic violence groups, anger management groups, as well as substance abuse and mental health counseling virtually as well. Several of our agencies that we've worked with for years have now created virtual sessions which offenders have been able to utilize, and we continue to keep in contact with those counseling agents. So despite an ever-changing environment, different directives, the strain of the COVID pandemic, my staff has continued to adapt, and we have continued to supervise these offenders despite all of the issues as best as we can. So I just want to thank everyone for allowing me to participate, and if there's certainly any questions or any follow-up, I think my phone number is provided and people can certainly reach out.
Thanks, Ann. One of the things that I didn't bring up probably purposely was one of the main things that we're doing here in court, and we're doing it over Zoom for the most part, is our summary process and eviction cases. We're lucky that we were able to secure some retired judges who were brought back to the bench after they retired to do these kinds of cases based on the volume. And we've been lucky here in Barnstable to have Judge Dominic Caratori, be able to do our summary process and eviction case, which as we all know, because of the pandemic, is a difficult thing, and the housing is a very difficult thing, especially here in Barnstable County, with just the summer nature and the sales that are now going through the roof of people not being able to find suitable housing. But I certainly want to assure people that here in Barnstable, we are following all the guidelines that have been brought forth by the federal government and by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to make sure that all landlords and tenants are treated fairly and within the law, whether it be by the CDC guidelines or any of the other moratoriums that are going on in terms of eviction. Now, with most evictions, people can still move forward with their evictions, and they can bring them pretty much to a judgment. But when the execution is brought forward, those are being delayed based on the moratoriums that are been set forth by the federal government. And we're lucky enough here today to have Liz Belcher, who is the part of the Barnstable Housing Assistance Corp of Cape Cod. She's the intake and legislative liaison. So Liz is going to give us a few words as to what's going on that.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. I want to make a quick correction. I am not the legislative liaison. That was part of my job duties in the past. We actually have a full-time person doing that at our agency now. So although I love working with the legislature and do it all the time, it's not technically part of my title anymore. I am the intake manager. So basically my job is to oversee and process applications for financial assistance, which of course has been a huge part of what everybody is needing right now. Housing Assistance Corporation is located in Xiarhos, but we serve all of the Cape and both islands. We also have some satellite space in Orleans on Mondays from 9:30 to 1:30. So folks in that area can access us more easily without having to travel to Xiarhos. Our office is open from 9 to 1 on weekdays. We have a plexiglass window, lots of safety protocols, but for folks that need the one-on-one to speak to someone who need assistance, who have difficulty doing it either virtually or by phone, or just prefer the one-on-one, which we're certainly noticing people are needing right now, they can come in and speak with the intake staff during that time. I'm going to screen share very quickly just to show our website, because that's where the magic happens. This is right here. Our website is haconcapecod.org, and this is the Get Help button. So anyone who is looking for assistance from any of the programs that we offer can click on this button and be directed to whatever services they might be looking for. The application for financial assistance is there. It's available in English, Portuguese, and Spanish. It's entirely virtual. Folks can upload all their documents right there on the website. And once they've completed the application, a notification is sent to a dedicated email, which the intake staff then reviews, contacts the applicant, and so forth. Our financial assistance provides help with rental arrears, mortgage arrears, and startup costs for homeless households looking to move into permanent housing. We also have a separate application that was recently created for landlords whose tenants are behind, but either have not or are having difficulty completing the application themselves. Landlords with 20 or fewer rental units can fill out an application to request assistance to pay back rent on behalf of their tenant. We do coordinate with the EDI, the Eviction Diversion Initiative, both with Legal Services and Cape Cod Mediation and the Tenancy Preservation Program. So we're working with all of those to sort of coordinate a central referral system. So anyone in need of financial assistance to prevent homelessness is directed to us in order to get that resource. I thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Liz. As Representative pointed out earlier, there are partners that work with the courts all the time, whether they be in an adversarial role with our lawyers and with others. But I also want to give a little shout out to our police department here in the Barnstable District, the Sandwich Police, Xiarhos Police, and the Barnstable Police. And I have with us today Sergeant Eric Driftmeyer, who I work very closely with in the Main Street Initiative and things that are going on up in our center of Barnstable. I want to give him a little bit of an opportunity to maybe say a few words about the difficulties that the police department is running into during COVID and what's going on with them and their interaction with the court. Judge?
Good morning. Thank you, Judge. So I'm Sergeant Driftmeyer. I currently supervise the department's Community Impact Unit, or CIU. I've been working in this capacity for about a year and a half now, but the history of the CIU goes back actually to about 2014, 2015, when it was first conceived by then Chief McDonald, and we've been participating in a lot of collaboration and partnerships with various entities around Hyannis and Cape Cod that focus on homelessness, substance use disorders, and mental health. So currently, we work very closely with Housing Assistance Corps, outreach folks, Duffy Healthcare, and outreach partners from VinVen, Bay Cove, and Department of Mental Health. We meet weekly just to kind of collaborate and strategize on individual cases, people who we are seeing out on the streets in Hyannis, who are chronically homeless, who suffer from mental health issues or substance abuse. And we try and come up with a collaborative strategy to address those needs on an individualized basis. I think we found early on that a blanket policy to address some of these issues isn't always beneficial to everyone. And quite often, some of the folks we see need an individualized plan in place, and representatives from each entity to kind of guide that through the system, whether it leads to court or treatment or wherever it may go. We're kind of trying to stay with them every step of the way. So on a daily basis, I am in constant communication with our outreach partners, and we meet weekly. And then on a broader scale, the CIU facilitates a monthly community crisis team meeting. And that brings in partners from court, probation, Cape Cod Health, Department of Mental Health, plus of all of our partner agencies, Bay Cove, who I've already mentioned. So that's a little a larger scale, and that CCIT meeting every month has been extremely beneficial to us as a police department and as a unit in trying to manage the situation on the streets of Hyannis, and gives us an ability, having those relationships, to reach out directly to the court or probation or Cape Psych or Cape Cod Health, Duffy, and collaborate and come up with strategies to help people. If we know that someone's going to be either released from incarceration or discharged from a treatment facility, or discharged from a psych center, or discharged from a hospital, we have the ability now with these partnerships to devise some type of plan so that when that person returns to the community, do they have housing? Do they have a support system in place with family or friends that can assist them in managing, taking medications, or whatever needs to happen? So CCIT and our work with our outreach partners has really come a long way in recent years, and given us that ability to work hand in hand with everyone. We also, because we are a police department, have somewhat of a balanced approach in terms of our priority is to be diversion based. We do not want to introduce people into the criminal justice system when we know the underlying issues are either substance abuse or mental health or something else. Frequently, the system, people fall through the cracks, and on occasions, it actually is the criminal justice system that allows a person to get to a treatment facility that they need to get to, or get hospitalization. And it's rarely under the notion that we're going to necessarily prosecute someone, but we get to have an opportunity to work with the court and work with probation to come up with an alternative plan where we can leverage the authority of the court to maybe get someone into a treatment or to an assessment they desperately need. I'm also in the community, and I work for chief of police and the town manager of the town of Barnstable and the town council, and the business community as well. So we have to balance our management of the outdoor chronic population that tends to populate Main Street, and having in mind the needs of the town, the need of having safe, open public spaces for everyone's enjoyment, and to allow the business community in that area to thrive while sharing the same real estate as many of the resources that I've talked about. So it's a constant chess game and a lot of juggling and back and forth on a daily basis to try and keep both sides of that line happy. Additionally, just in terms of what transpired over the past year with COVID, initially we did not see the pandemic have an adverse effect within the chronic outdoor population. They obviously they tend to congregate together and live in somewhat of a community atmosphere. But those who are outside, those who are not exposed to other members of society, tended to remain COVID-free for several months. We did not see a case within the homeless community that I'm aware of for several months. I was also kind of monitoring some of the Board of Health data that was coming out early on, and from my personal review of that data, it looked like a lot of the initial cases were coming from other parts of the town of Barnstable, middle-class neighborhoods, and presumably individuals who did a lot of traveling, business people who attended meetings and conferences and things of that nature seemed to be getting it at least early on. That's not to say that the pandemic hasn't touched the homeless committee. It absolutely has. But there have been fantastic programs in place to get those who are unsheltered into facilities or into locations where they could safely quarantine. And one of the locations was in Taunton. The state was providing the transportation to come pick them up, bring them to a hotel in Taunton, and they could quarantine for up to the 14 days before returning to Xiarhos. So we definitely had a few cases within the homeless population, but I wouldn't say it ever at any point ran rampant through that population. I think that's all I have. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much. At this point, I'm going to turn the section over to my friend and president downstairs, the first justice of the Barnstable, Duke, Nantucket, and Town of Plymouth Juvenile Court, the Honorable James Corney.
Thank you, John. A lot of what we heard from district court people, Ann McDonald and Judge Julian, equally applies to the juvenile court. Relative to COVID, we've had times when we were kind of locked down and there were certain things, certain directives that we got, and there were some cases we couldn't do, and then they would come back. But currently, we're doing everything that we have in our jurisdiction, with the exception of jury matter, which I guess will get straightened out sometime, hopefully in the near future. We have locations in Barnstable, Plymouth, Falmouth, Orleans, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket. The Plymouth court being one that has jurisdiction only within the jurisdiction of the Plymouth District Court, not Brockton. We have, you don't hear too much about juvenile court because it's all pretty much done in secret, and there's a reason for that, obviously. And that's to protect the reputation of a lot of the youngsters who are making mistakes from time to time. And it's a situation in which that type of thing could go back to haunt them for a long time in the future. But however, some of them do get into such trouble that we have to sentence them to DYS. We can sentence them to the House of Correction. We can sentence them to Walpole State Prison. We have youthful offender statute, and oddly enough, I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that the juvenile court has more sentencing power than any other court, including the Superior Court. Because we can impose juvenile sentences as well as district court sentences as well as Superior Court sentences. Generally, we have two sides. We have a civil side and a criminal side. The civil side is our care and protection side, and our cross side, children requiring assistance. And in the care and protection side, what we're mainly looking at is abuse of neglected children. In those circumstances, those cases generally go on for a year, sometimes 2 years, depending on the progress of the respondent. And the CRA matters, which is really what the community sees more than anything else, especially the schools. We have to deal with children who are truant in school, who are habitual offenders in school, and who are stubborn at home, and the parents bring them in and say, you know, you got to fix them. So we try and do that. Oftentimes it's too late because a lot of times children don't come in before me until they're 16 or 17 years old, and then it's a little difficult at that point. We also have jurisdiction under the area of sexually exploited children. We also have concurrent jurisdiction with the district court on harassment orders. We don't do 209As, but we also have jurisdiction concurrent with the district court on mental health and substance abuse commitment. We have several programs that we run out of the juvenile court, that being a girls group, Changing Lives Through Literature. The Sheriff Youth Ranch is one that we refer a number of kids to in the summertime. Unfortunately, this summer we couldn't do it because of COVID, but the sheriff runs a fantastic program in the summertime. It's almost like military boot camp. And I'll tell you, I have gotten more results out of that than any other program that I have been involved in the 15 years that I've been down here as the juvenile court judge. On the criminal side, there's three options. We sentence them to DYS until they're 18. That would be the most serious sanction. Obviously, we can put them on probation, just as the district court does on continued finding or guilty findings. But the worst thing generally that we do down here is sentence the kids to DYS, which, by the way, has a number of great programs. It's not just jail. I mean, they really help these kids out in a number of ways. And oftentimes they come out of DYS, a kid you wouldn't even recognize. Also, we can sentence the juvenile to age 21 and suspend his sentence to, say, the state prison or the House of Correction. And the third option is to just sentence the juvenile as an adult. So, although there's a lot going on in juvenile court, although you don't see it in the newspapers a lot, which is, I guess, kind of good. At least it's good for me. And I just want to say that I'm very thrilled to be down here in Barnstable County. I get along very well with all the other judges, all the other probation departments. I think we all get along very well. And the greatest gift in my life, besides my family, has been able to serve the citizens of Barnstable County and the town of Plymouth. And my phone number is 508-398-1389 if you need to talk.
Thank you, Judge Tony. Now we're going to turn to our probate and family court, and I want to introduce our registrar, Anastasia Welch-Perino. Anna, you're on mute.
It's a great way to start out. Thanks, Judge Julian, and thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm Anastasia Welch-Perino. I'm the Register of Probate, or Clerk Magistrate, if you will, of the Barnstable Probate and Family Court. I run the clerk's office here at the Barnstable Probate and Family Court. And we have one probate and family court serve Barnstable County resident, which is basically the arm of the Cape. We are here. My message is that we are here and we have been here through the pandemic to help you. Family matters do not stop during the pandemic. Oftentimes, unfortunately, they get worse. We have had a number, unfortunately, of guardianship for people who are incapacitated due to COVID. We've also had an uptick in our estate, unfortunately, for people who have passed away due to COVID. We also continue to have many, many guardianships of minor children for parents who are incapacitated for some reason. A lot of times it's for substance abuse issues, mental illness issues. So we have people stepping up in our county, caregivers, grandparents, or family members, or friends taking care of minor children. So we have a lot of those types of cases. I want to thank our dedicated court staff here because we have been here since the pandemic started. There have been times due to orders of the court that we had to close down in early March, but our dedicated staff has been here. They've been trying to help the citizens of Barnstable County by email, by phone, by Zoom. We have some resources I'd like to share with you. And Kavita, I don't know if you have that information. You can share the screen on our protocols, which our First Justice Arthur Riley and I developed. And I'm going to just give a few examples of what we have, and then I'm going to let Judge Riley say a few words if you would like. So I just wanted to go through with you some of the resources that we have developed. All courts are currently now mandated to have only 50% staff in the building due to COVID restrictions. But we have developed some resources which have been working really well for our families and people, court customers. The first thing I just want to point out, we do have a virtual registry every day for people who would like to use Zoom. The link is right there on the screen that is being shared with you. You can also go to find it at mass.gov and search Barnstable Zoom, and up will come our page, and you can click into that Zoom link for assistance. We are here 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. or from 2:15 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. every day. And there is a staff member that can assist you. And we can also share forms with you, and also at appropriate times share the screen of your case if you have a case. So it's a very useful tool if you're able to use Zoom. I'd also like to point out and give a shout out to our law librarians, our Barnstable County Law Library, which is located in the basement of the district court across the parking lot. They have been on Zoom with us every day. So they are also available to assist our customers if they need additional help that our staff cannot take the time. They have to sometimes move on to other customers, but it's been a very useful tool. We're only allowed, as I said, to have 50% staff in the office. So I have 50% staff working remotely from home, and those staff members are all on Zoom, helping the public from their homes, answering phone calls, and some are even able to docket and scan documents. As Rep. Xiarhos said, sometimes the Cape is not acknowledged for the resources. Sometimes the city courts get a lot more resources than we do, but many of our court employees are using their own equipment at home to work and to make sure our customers are getting the service they deserve during these difficult times. If you can't use Zoom, number 2 there, you can make an email appointment. You've got the Barnstable Probate at jude.state.ma.us is our email. You can contact us that way, or you can call our telephone, which is 508-375-6710. You can set up a telephone conference if you don't feel comfortable using Zoom. You can come into court We are open. However, we are trying to help people virtually so they do not have to come in and risk that potential getting exposed to COVID, because we have had some incidents. All our court forms are available online. Number 3, you may do that we have our own Barnstable website, which I created when I was first elected, which is barnstablecountypfc.com, and that is all linked to our mass.gov forms. If you have an emergency, we have a court standing order that defines what an emergency is. You may contact us, and by phone, we will help you either by phone or by Zoom. And you may email us your court forms if that's easier for you. If you move on to the next page, please. And you can email again forms to that barnstableprobate@u.state.ma.us email address, so you don't have to come here in person. Restraining order requests are considered emergency requests. We've been helping people both in person or virtually. We have provided forms to people by email so they can fill those out and do them from the privacy of their home if they don't want to come to court, or they can certainly come to court. Our Independence House in Barnstable has been wonderful. We have court advocates who will call the customer and help them with the paperwork. And then most of the hearings, as Judge Riley can talk to you about, will be done on Zoom, although some are done in person. And the Independence House advocate will actually get on Zoom and be there for moral assistance if necessary, or if you would like. We also have a drop box at the front door. It is inside the building, but if you want to drop off your court paperwork and not come up into the building, you may do so, and you may pay by credit card over the phone. Staff member will call you. You may pay by personal check or money order. We're trying to make it as convenient as possible for you. If you need copy requests, again, number 7, you may email the court and one of our staff will get to you and take your information and take your payment over the phone so you don't have to court. We've had a wonderful success with our virtual Lawyer of the Day program. If you need an attorney and you can't afford one, our Barnstable County attorneys, many of them are volunteering for our virtual Lawyer of the Day. The Lawyer of the Day is not physically present in the building, but they are available if you call the court at the number provided at 508-375-6710. And a staff member will try to help you on the phone and give you forms and whatever you need. And then you will be referred to the Lawyer of the Day, your email and phone number, and they will contact you by phone. It's worked out very, very well. Title examiners, I'm not sure if this applies to many people or people who do genealogical research. We've been trying to limit those people coming into the building, but if you email the court at that email address, they will be able to, staff will be able to help you and hopefully get you what you need. I'd like to turn it over to Judge Riley, talk about court hearings if he's available, how he's handling those things. And thank you all again for your support, and we are here to help. That's my message to you all. Despite the pandemic, we're here because family matters don't wait. So Judge Riley, our first justice at the Probate and Family Court.
All right, thank you very much, Anastasia. I'm not going to repeat what Anastasia said, so I'll keep it short. I want to emphasize a couple of things here. First of all, there's one probate and family court on Cape Cod. We have jurisdiction over every single town on the Cape. We have 2 judges. We have a registry, Anastasia Welsh-Perino. We have a chief probation officer. And we handle a variety of matters in this court, from restraining orders, adoptions, guardianships, divorce cases, separations, petitions to partition land, child custody issues, and there are even more types of cases, but that's what we do. one courthouse here for the entire Cape. What I want to emphasize is that since this pandemic began last March, we have been open every single day from 8:30 to 4:30. If you are the victim of abuse, you can come to our court. You will either be heard in person, you'll be heard by telephone, or you'll be heard by Zoom. You will not be turned away. If you are a grandparent who has grandchildren, whose parents are unable to care for those children, and it's an emergency, you can come to this court and you will be heard, either in person, by Zoom, or by telephone. Our preferred method of hearing cases is by Zoom. It's safer for everybody. It's effective. It's not perfect, but it works. The same logic applies to emergency estate matters, emergencies that come up in the context of family matters and divorces. Nobody gets turned away. The matters will be heard. Anastasia Welsh-Perino's office is incredibly efficient and unbelievably helpful and dedicated to helping the citizens of Cape Cod. And the exact same thing applies to the members of my judicial staff and the probation department. We have 50% teams here every day, meaning that one judge is sitting every day and one judge is remote every day. Each judge has a small staff of 3 or 4 people, so we split our time here 50-50. Most of our hearings are by Zoom. Right now, we're doing between both of us and the other judges, Judge Angela Ordonez. Between myself and Judge Ordonez, we hear approximately 30 Zoom hearings a day, sometimes more, sometimes less. And we're scheduling trials every day, except for Wednesday afternoons. Some of the trials are in person, but I have to tell you, most of them lately have been by Zoom, but we are starting to expand, just like Judge Torney indicated when he was speaking, we're expanding more and more to in-person trials, and hopefully we'll be able to do more. Lastly, I want to concur completely with my brother, Justice James Torney. Barnstable is a unique place. It's a unique court complex. We have district court, we have juvenile court, we have probate and family court, we have superior court. We all know each other. We all work with each other. Not just the judges, but the probation officers. We also frequently have cases overlapping in different courts. And we do strive very, very much to deliver justice evenly, fairly, and equitably for all of the citizens on Cape Cod. And also, as Judge Torney said, it has been a great privilege for me to have been able to serve Barnstable County for just about 13 years. So thank you very much. I appreciate being given the opportunity to speak.
I think our next speaker, did you want me to introduce him or did you want to do that, Judge Julian?
Diane, mute the whole time?
Our next speaker is our Regional Administrative Justice, Justice Mark Gilday of the Superior Court in Barnstable.
Thank you, Register Welsh-Perino. And thank you for allowing me to participate in this informational meeting. My name is Mark Gilday, and I'm a judge here in the Superior Court. And we're very fortunate here in Barnstable County to have a great group of employees, and I'm very happy to be part of the trial court team. The Superior Court is a trial court with jurisdiction in civil actions over $50,000 and in matters where equitable relief is sought. We also have exclusive original jurisdiction of first-degree murder cases and original jurisdiction of all other crimes. We have 2 Superior Court judges sitting here in Barnstable County 5 days a week and are presently hearing a variety of civil and criminal matters. In addition, we have Superior Court on Dukes County in Edgartown as well as Nantucket County, and we continue to hear matters virtually for those courts. Barnstable County has a very helpful clerk's office under the leadership of Clerk Scott Nickerson, and contact information for the clerk's office is available at the mass.gov website. We here at the Superior Court, like all other courts, are adhering to COVID protocols to ensure the safety of all participants in the judicial process. Protocols include taking temperatures of all that enter the building, pre-screening with COVID-focused questions, maintaining appropriate distancing, and requiring masks at all times unless one is alone in an office, as I am now. As with the other courts here in Barnstable County, we continue to conduct court visits. You can look at the trial court website each day and see the schedule for court business for this court and all other courts. Now, some of our matters, like the other courts, are being held in person, and other matters are being conducted virtually. We have conducted jury-waived civil and criminal trials during the pandemic, and we are hopeful to start up jury trials in the near future when it is determined that we can do so in a manner that ensures the safety of all participants. Now, like many of the other courts, we are all facing an increase in self-represented litigants. Now, in criminal cases, upon a determination that one is indigent, then the court will appoint a lawyer. That is not true in civil cases. In civil cases, although one has the right to represent themselves in court without an attorney, because serious legal rights and large amounts of money may be at stake in a court case, most people admittedly are better off with an attorney if they can find one. But in civil cases, this court and other courts cannot appoint one for you. But what the trial court does offer are court service centers. And court service centers have staff who work and give legal information to litigants, but not legal advice. Legal information includes answering questions about how the court works and the different options available to litigants. Staff can't help one decide what they should do or predict what will happen in the case. They don't represent you, but they are there to provide information to self-represented litigants. To read more about the court service centers, you can go onto the MassGov website and search for court service centers. Now, the trial court also has an office of language access, and we're now going to hear from the senior manager of that office, Narda Beria. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Nara Barrios, and I am the Senior Manager for the Office of Court Interpreter Services. The Office of Language Access provides services for over 120 languages. The most frequent languages are Spanish, Portuguese, Cape Verdean, Haitian, Arabic, Chinese, Khmer, Russian, Vietnamese, and American Sign Language. During COVID-19 and with court closures, that reopened on July 13, we have been providing interpreter services. We never closed when courts closed in March. We provided services via WebEx, via Zoom, Polycom, phone lines, and bridge lines, and now in-person requests when they are requested. Interpreters are available to interpret for attorneys, clients' meetings, court clinics interviews, and court hearings such as arraignments, probation violations, warrant removal, dangerousness hearings, and mental health evaluations, and all of the requests that come into our office. The Office of Language Answers also is staffing the helpline, currently in Spanish and Portuguese. If you have any questions with regards to where your matter is heard or where can you get assistance, you will call the helpline at 1-833-912-6878, and you will be answered in Spanish or Portuguese. There's also information at mass.gov about interpreter services. If you go there, you can locate us and see where can we assist you in, in your matters in court. We also provide services to police departments when they are requested and in need of interpreter services. This morning, serving us is staff interpreter for Spanish, Carla Crispin, and dual language interpreter, Salo Salman, who speaks Portuguese and Cape Verdean. And I would like to extend my gratitude to both of them for serving in this town hall meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Nada. So that is a wrap up of all the speakers that are going to speak today, and I want to thank them all. Certainly to my colleagues, Judge Gilday, Judge Corney, Judge Riley, and special thanks to my friend Anastasia. And Anastasia and I can certainly say, maybe not differently from my other colleagues, that her and I are products of the Barnstable County area. We're both graduates of the Dennis Yarmouth Regional High School, so we know what goes on down here on Cape Cod. And not speaking for her, but I'm sure she echoes the same thing, that this is a privilege of our lives to be able to represent the people that represented us. You know, we were growing up here on Cape Cod. So I want to thank everybody who spoke today. I also want to send out a special thanks to Chief Justice Carey for putting on the program and the work that went into this program and the behind the scenes stuff for my friend, the Honorable Judge Julie Bernard, Elizabeth Serta, and Kavita Charter for putting this all on. It's a monumental task to make sure that we have the ability to touch everybody here in Barnstable County with this presentation. So I want to thank everybody for doing that. I also want to send out a special thanks to Channel 18 for streaming our broadcast here. Not only are we on Zoom, but we're being streamed live through that. I also want to, again, thank my friend Steve Xiarhos, our newly minted representative, for taking the time to be with us today. It's important to show the other branches of government what that third branch of government is actually doing, and that we're working as hard as they are. And with their help, we can do the things that we're doing here in Barnstable County. I also want to thank Vera for those great stats. The stats really kind of push what's going on here, and are able to go at people like Representative Xiarhos and say we need more things here on Cape Cod. So again, I want to thank everybody for their participation. I hope this was a well worthwhile endeavor for the people here in Barnstable County. And again, if you have any questions or any concerns, you saw all the numbers that were up on the screen. And if you didn't get the numbers, you can always go to mass.gov and put in the specific courts that are here: the district court, the juvenile court, probate and family court, superior court, and any probation department, and those numbers can be found on the mass.gov website. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge. Stay safe, stay healthy, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Salo.